and welcome to the Community Enrichment Fitness Network's Focus on Fitness, where making healthy choices creates healthy lifestyles. I'm Reverend Jesse Brown, your host, and on behalf of Sherry Hill and the CEFN family, welcome to our show. We have a great season going on, and I have with me Dr. Brett Cardonick, and he is a chiropractor. And he'll talk to us about chiropractor and what it does and what it means, and well, you'll find out. I think, Dr. Brett, I want to first talk to you about, what is an adjustment and what does it mean to adjust the spine?
Great. What an adjustment does is it allows the body to work the way that it's supposed to. Your body's electrical, and your brain communicates through the nerves to all the organs, tissues, and systems in your body.
Okay.
Now, what researchers have shown, medical researchers has shown that when there is interference with the communication, even a minor misalignment of the spine cuts down those impulses by 60%. So that means that the body's only working on 40%. And unfortunately, when that happens, your body may feel nothing. So if the nerves to the liver, say, for a year or a decade or two are not getting the right electrical impulses from the brain, that liver may not work right, or if it goes to any other organ or system in the body. So what chiropractors do is we locate those subluxations, those misalignments in the spine, remove that interference, and allow that communication from the brain to the nerves to the body to work the way that it should, and allow the body to heal itself.
So that could be a reason why some people have headaches, right?
It could absolutely be a reason why people have headaches. There was some research done not too long ago that pointed out that there is an anatomical connection between the base of the head and the top few vertebrae in the spine and your spinal cord. And when the vertebrae at the top are misaligned or subluxated, it directly pulls on the spinal cord and gives that symptoms of headaches. So adjusting the spine absolutely helps with headaches.
Well, I also think that some people in the way they sleep or lay on the pillow also affects that. Am I on to something here?
Absolutely. Everything that we do during our day is going to affect how our body works. So you need to make sure that you're sitting correctly, that you're sleeping correctly, that your posture is right pretty much at all times. Well,
that's sometimes harder to do than we actually can say on the show, because I know that when we get tired, we tend to slump. And when we are not happy, we tend to do something else with our bodies than maybe keeping it in good posture or good health.
Good posture does take a lot of work to create that good habit. So yes, it does.
Now I got another interesting idea. My grandmother always had trouble with arthritis. Matter of fact, it was in her hands, and and I'm not sure what bent her fingers over, but I know that she always felt a great deal of pain and from that. Is that something that chiropractic can deal with?
Well, when we talk about arthritis in chiropractic, we mainly focus on the spine. And I get patients coming in all the time. Well, they say, well, I have arthritis, and my doctor says, or my friends say that it's normal because I'm 50 years old to have arthritis. And what's really the truth about that is rheumatologists and medical doctors have shown through research that if you use the spine correctly and you use it in biomechanically the way that it's designed to, it's not supposed to show signs of wear and tear for 125 years. That doesn't mean that you're finished at 125.
Right.
That's when it starts to break down. But unfortunately, we're kept in the dark about our posture and how we're supposed to do things. So over time, as the joints aren't working correctly, they're going to start to wear down, and that's arthritis. So when someone says they have arthritis, it's not normal, it's common, because most people don't do the things that they're supposed to do correctly over time, and that's what leads to arthritis. So with your grandmother with arthritis, certainly we can work with that. There are adjustment techniques that can deal with arthritis, and sometimes would not maybe use a hands-on technique, but a non-force technique to get those subluxations to be corrected.
Now, what about other joints or elbows or knees? And of course, I'm the biggest one because I always am hurting myself, even when I don't think I'm hurting myself. Just yesterday, I was literally up on the tree, cutting trees with the chainsaw, trying to get this tree out of my yard. It's been there and falling down. And of course you bend and twist and, kind of hang upside down, and then you try not to cut yourself or lose a limb somewhere in this process.
Well, my first bit of advice is get out of the tree and let the professionals deal with that. But absolutely, we address shoulders, knees, hips, elbows, because it's all hanging off from the spine. It's all connected. And if you're using your body in an inappropriate way, well, then you're not going to be able to utilize the work of your arm the way that it should be. So when I do a care plan, we're always working on the entire spine and whatever supporting structures are being affected.
Yeah, but what about us guys that, we can't quite figure out what, we used to jump and play basketball when we were 16, 17, 20, 24. Now we're 55. I'm 55 and I still go out there and I play basketball, but I don't know what is too much. But I do know that when I get out there, I hurt myself. Right. Because I didn't warm up properly. Sometimes I think I did everything right, and I still come back hurt in this process.
So what you're saying is, why do you get to do all the sports and then have to suffer afterwards?
Yeah, that's it.
It's not supposed to be like that.
Oh.
We should be able to work a full work day, 40 to 60 hours a week, come home, deal with whatever we need to do. If you fall asleep on the couch, it's supposed to be okay, but you're not supposed to deal with it for the next 3 days suffering.
3 days, tried.
Or 3 weeks. Or 2 weeks.
Yeah, there you go.
What happens is that if your body is not working correctly, well, then you're not going to be able to handle those things. So we go back to figuring out what does the patient want to do, work and recreation-wise, and then optimize how their body works. So in addition to working on the spine and doing the adjustments, we're also giving advice on, well, maybe when you play golf or you play basketball, you need to change how you do that. Right. And then cutting trees down is the same way.
And there's even more simpler things. I mean, now I ride a bicycle a great deal.
Wonderful.
But even when I ride the bicycle, I know that sometimes when I do not ride it correctly, right, it is a problem with my back, or I'm not leaning correctly, or I'm tense. I mean, you don't have to do anything necessarily. Just being tense doesn't allow my body to do that. How do I work myself up to doing the right kind of thing and the right motion with the exercise and the things I want to do?
Well, my first answer is to get it right from the very beginning. Because most likely the way you ride the bike now is the way that you rode the bike when you were a child. Except when you were a child, your body could handle it. It could put up with however you were doing things incorrectly at the time. So you need to learn how to do things right from the beginning.
Okay.
So it's a retraining process.
So I should have, and it's probably true, I probably should have gone to a bicycle place and at least had myself tested out, or come to you and maybe, you can tell me how I should be riding or how I should be carrying myself, particularly now that I'm even trying long distance kind of racing.
So then at this point, what I would recommend is, there are 3 times during any activity that you want to address your body. Before you start, you need to stretch.
Okay.
When you stop and take your break and have your water, well, you need to stretch before you get started again.
Okay.
And then at the end, you want to stretch, and if you think a joint is sore, you always want to use ice to keep inflammation down. So you can still do it, but then, even though you're doing it perhaps not as correctly as possible, you want to manage it better, and that may cut down on the discomfort and the pain that you have at the end.
Well, Lord knows I need to figure out exactly what I'm doing wrong, or sometimes doing some things right. I don't always hurt when I do these things or get hurt in the process, but I do know that my friends and myself, we sometimes do that. But we're going to get there. I'm glad you came by today, and this is Dr. Brett Cardonick, who is part of our CEFN family, and you'll see him again on the exercises. We have been blessed to have Dr. Brett Cardonick show us some chiropractic moves. At least that's what I call them. Why don't you tell us what CDC requires and some of our governmental agencies around these things?
Right. So for the exercise portion, I really wanted to make sure that I gave people a reason. Well, when the government tells you to do things, you're supposed to do it. So the CDC, the Surgeon General, the Department of Health and Human Services, the American Heart Association, all say 30 minutes of exercise at least 5 times a week. Now, the good news is if you can't get 30 minutes to yourself, you can do 15 minutes or 10 minutes twice a day. A little in the morning, a little in the afternoon. But it's the repetition. You have to get it done.
All right. Well, we have enlisted one of our interns, Dr. Cheney here, and she is now going to be our our subject for what's getting ready to come.
Right. So you had asked me to talk about a good warm-up routine. So what I have down here is a very basic 5-minute warm-up routine where you're going to jog in place for 30 seconds. Right? You don't have to go fast. You want to get your knees up, land softly on your feet.
Right.
Just get the heart rate
What
moving.
about stay up on your toes? Is that important
You can
too?
be on your toes. You just don't want to be jamming on your heels. So toes are good. After that, some jumping jacks. Basic jumping jacks.
Go ahead.
As she gets warmed up more, she'll be able to actually touch her hands over her head, and that's going to stretch out the front. So it's not fast. You do that for 30 seconds.
Okay.
And then I picked this one up off another video, side-to-side hops. So on, right. And
now
then
that's
the other
a hop on one foot.
On one foot going side to side. It's getting the muscles on the sides of the legs and on the inner thighs. So we do that for 30 seconds. And then we do wall climbers, like you're climbing up a wall or climbing up a ladder, really getting the knees up.
Get higher, 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 Janie, go!
Reaching those arms up to the ceiling as best as you can.
You're almost at the top of the Himalayas. Go ahead.
And then before you run out of air, and then you stop, and you rest, and you get your breath for 30 seconds.
Okay.
Your heart rate's still going to be up, and then you run through that again. So that's 5 minutes of warm-up. Then, now that the body's warm, you want to stretch. So I have down here some 5 basic stretching exercises. The first one's for the front. So you're going to bring your arms up all the way to the ceiling, and then like you're scratching your elbows against the wall, come all the way down, and stretch that chest. You want to bend your elbows and bring those elbows down, and that's one. And you're going to do that 3 to 5 times, just reaching up, and as you exhale, you bring those arms down. And you do that 3 to 5 times.
You know that hurts, don't you? See my shoulders?
Well, do we have to go back to the tree again?
It might have to.
So you work within yourself, so you take your time. But what's going to happen is, again, you'll run through this twice, and by the time you're through the second one, it should be looser. So after we do the arms, we want to start to work on our legs. So we talked about the hamstrings, right? You're going to put your legs about shoulder width apart, maybe a little bit more, and then just reach down towards the floor. If you need to bend your knees a little bit, you can. You want to relax your head, stretching out the back as well, and don't bounce, and you stay there for 30 seconds. That's going to give a nice stretch to the muscles in the lower back as well. Once you've gotten that nice and loose for 30 seconds, you're going to bend your knees, put your elbows right by your knees, and you're going to push out. So you're inside, so you're pushing out, so you're stretching the muscles on the inside of the legs, and you can get your bottom down a little bit there, Reverend Brown, to stretch out that lower back and the legs a little bit more. And you're going to do that for about 20 seconds. And then lastly, once you come up carefully there, we want to stretch the muscles of the fronts of the legs. Now, when you see runners, they're always standing, and I'm going to hold on to you here, and they're grabbing the foot in the same hand. You don't want to do that. This is bad for the knee. So what you want to do is you want to grab the foot in the opposite hand behind you, and you want to stand up straight, and you want to pull that heel into your buttocks so that you're stretching the quadriceps.
Okay.
30 seconds with that, and then you switch, and you do the other one. And you always want to have somebody to hold on to.
There you go.
If you fall and hurt yourself, I don't want to get the blame. So we do that. So that's the warm-up routine. Okay? Now you also want to do this at the end of your routine. So that's part of your cool down. If you only have the opportunity to
What do you mean do it at the end? You mean jog in place and all those things, or
the stretching portion?
The stretching portion. Okay.
So when you're done, so we've done your warm-up, you're going to go play basketball, you're going to play tennis or whatever. You want to run through those stretching exercises at the end. Okay? If while you're doing your exercises, or your sport, you take a big break in the middle, halftime, you want to stretch, you want to run through that same initial warm-up. You want to do all of these things first and then stretch before you start up again.
All right.
Okay. Another thing I wanted to talk about was running. You know, running is still real big, whether people are running around a track or they're running around the neighborhood. And what's important is your body gets used to how you run. So if you're running around a track and you're always going in the same direction, what's going to happen is the inside leg is going to end up becoming a little bit shorter than the outside leg. So you want to change directions. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you go one way. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, you go the other.
I bet most people have never thought about that. It always feel comfortable, because I do run.
Right.
And now that you say it, I run the same course every time.
Right.
Now I may change up the course and not run that particular way, but I still go to the left, to the left.
Exactly, and your body gets used to that, and it's going to adapt to it.
Yeah.
Now the other thing is, if you're running along the curb, if the curb is always on the same side of your body, well then the inside leg is going to be shorter than the outside because roads are crowned, they're higher in the middle. So you want to go out with the curb on your right, you want to come back with the curb on your left.
Ah, okay.
Right? So it's these little things, just like with your posture, that if you make these changes, the more you get used to changing them, it's going to become that good habit for you.
Well, you know, it's important that we're showing on this show, even right now, that we've got a young person right here in Cheney and an old guy like me who's been doing this for a while. But the point is that in order for this to become a lifestyle, you need to start young.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, we're taking gym class out of schools, but we can talk about that another time. But absolutely exercise. You got to be outside, you have to do stuff, and you also have to change what you're doing. If you go to the gym and you do the same workout the same time, every time you go in there, your body's going to get used to it and you're not going to grow. So you have to switch things up. You can change up the body parts that you're working on, you change the exercises that you're doing, but you have to keep your body guessing so that it doesn't get stale and stagnant.
Well, I do that now just for my own psyche. I can't do the same thing over and over again. So sometimes I'm lifting weights and sometimes I do this little rolling app thing that I have. And sometimes I run and sometimes I bicycle and sometimes I play basketball. But I keep changing up with the idea, at least in my head, the idea is that I'm doing something different and I stay interested in doing it so that it becomes a habit.
That's exactly what you want to do. The more you change and do things, your body keeps guessing, that's where growth comes from. Change sometimes in the beginning is uncomfortable. So the first couple of times you try that new exercise, it's going to take some time for your body to get used to it. But once it does, you'll be able to grow and go stronger and go longer and go even a little bit harder.
Now let's show folks again, because I want to make sure that they get what you're trying to tell us. Here,
Okay.
off the chart, we've got jog in place. And then we do what next?
After the jogging in place, you're going to go ahead and you're going to do your jumping jacks. And eventually you're going to get your hands up so that your fingers can touch and coming back down. And it's just for 30 seconds, moving nice and calmly. The side-to-side hops, you want to show those again? On one, right?
One
and then
leg,
to the other.
yeah.
And when you get warmed up and loose, you can go further apart. It's all about getting the body moving in different directions. Once that feels good, 30 seconds, you're going to do the wall climbers. When you're climbing up that ladder, get those knees up, get those arms up, back and forth. If you want to do it to music, you can certainly do that as well. 30 seconds of that, and then you rest. Catch your breath. When you feel your heart rate coming down a little bit, grab a small drink of water and then run through it again.
And then the stretching?
The stretching, we're trying to hit each body group just a little bit. You do your chest first. Your hands are up. You
Right.
bring your elbows down as you exhale, stretching all the muscles in front. Do that a few times. You then go to your legs about shoulder width apart. Carefully bend down. You don't have to touch your toes. You just have to wave to them.
There
Get
you
close.
go.
30 seconds, let your head and neck relax. Then you bend your knees, push your elbows into your knees, stretching the legs so you get the muscles inside of the groin there. 20 seconds, and then when you stand up, you want to stretch your quadriceps, being sure that you're getting the foot in the opposite hand behind
There you go.
and holding on to somebody so you don't fall over.
And then, as you say, repeat.
Repeat.
Don't forget, repeat. But always warm up first before you get into your exercise routine.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good job.
And thank you.
We have been blessed to have with us Chef Live Ive. I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming back and showing us some of your recipes. You've been doing a magnificent job this season, and I love everything that you have thus far prepared.
Okay, well, I hope
It's
I can
been-
continue with that.
Oh,
type of,
I'm sure you'll do just fine.
Delight.
You know, I bet a lot of people would like to know where you get some of your vegetables and fruits and those kinds of things from.
Yeah, there's a couple of markets I try to do locally grown. There's a few folks that I'm working with that are into greenhouse and urban farming. So as the season progresses, I hope to have some of the neighborhood farms and
Right.
even some of the farmers from the black farmers that are bringing things up from the South also.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a lot of community gardens. There's also farmers market at the Reading Terminal
Right.
that does local growing. And
And I always hooked up with the Food Trust.
Yes.
Because they also run a lot of neighborhood garden or farmers markets
yes,
in communities and neighborhoods.
right. And in some of the dill and some of the herbs I grow myself, really,
Right.
in my garden also. So
Yeah, no, and that's a very excellent point that we ought to make to people is that they don't have to go out and buy some of these things. Some of these things can be grown right in their own pot in their house,
exactly. And
at home.
that's where we need to start. And also, when you have children, it's also a science project. So people need to know and be able to identify, cilantro, dill, parsley, not, you know, bell peppers, you
Right.
know, the whole thing. And, you know, it's just really a part of a common knowledge. But really the explosion of the cooking shows, they're teaching a lot of things, and a lot of the inner city kids are starting to really, you know, get into farming.
Well, you know,
the First Lady's pushing that also.
One of my big hopes is that children will be introduced to these things when they are children.
Yes.
And that way we don't have to convince them about it when they're adults.
Yes.
And they learn how good these things can be for them. You know, too long now we kind of wait until we're adults and then we don't like it, or, you know,
Exactly.
something's wrong with it, or we're not used to it. Let's get them used to it. If they grow up with it, then they don't have to get used to it.
Exactly, yes.
They'll know what it's about. All right, what do you have planned for us today?
Today we're going to do a curry zucchini and yellow squash. It almost reminds me of a Native American dish, because, you know, the Native Americans did a lot with squash. So it's my rendition of maybe a live stew that someone had fixed for me some years ago.
Okay.
So this is a recipe that's a homage to the Native Americans, but it'll have more or less the curry is just another influence that we'll put to this.
All right.
So for the most part, I have already started cutting up zucchini.
And then, what is that, squash?
Squash, yes, and yellow squash.
The yellow
So you have-
squash, yeah.
Yeah, and the green squash. Also, I have sun-dried tomatoes,
Okay.
which we'll add, definitely.
Yeah, go for it.
We can introduce a little bit of curry here, but you see how I've been using this Vitamix.
Right.
So we're going to introduce really the flavor when we do make
Okay.
the gravy. So that'll be the delivery system. We're going to put cilantro in there for color, also for taste. So the cilantro will also give it a nice little flavor, but also first cold press extra virgin olive oil.
Okay.
We'll probably do about 3 tablespoons of that. I do have date and syrup water, so the dates will add a sweetness to it.
And you put the water and all in there.
The water right now, yes. We'll do a little bit of Bragg's and maybe a little bit of cumin.
Okay.
Give it that earthy taste. And cumin basically makes everything taste good, but also in Ayurvedic medicine,
Right.
this basically stabilizes a lot of things internally, so, you know, you can't go wrong. And also we'll do a little citrus too for this recipe.
Okay. So you got lemon.
Yeah, so we have lemon.
Gonna try the lime this time?
You know
I've
what?
tried the lime. I saw you try the lime.
The lime has been working well, and we do have one
Hey.
right there, so.
It works for me.
Uh-huh.
Before we finish this show, I'm going to show folks that your set of knives sitting on your
Okay,
side
yeah.
over here.
Yeah.
You know, I think you're a ninja man or something. I don't know.
They say when the Japanese lost the war, a lot of the samurai became the sushi chefs. So
Hey,
yeah,
there
gotta
you
be careful
go.
with a brother who has a knife on his side. And also, you know, that's just tradition with
Sure. Well,
you know, even the hunters.
it's a tool
Yeah,
too.
it's a tool.
Remember, it's having sharp knives gets your
That's
job
right.
done better.
And since we're introducing the sun-dried tomatoes, that water and also the
into
couple
the
sun-dries,
mix.
yeah,
Okay.
enter the mix too. Let that go for a few minutes, a few seconds.
Okay.
Or you know what? Let's really concentrate it with curry. This is really supposed to be orange, so I didn't really add the major.
Well, let's give it the kick it's got to have.
That's right. Voila. And since you said kick, let's put a little bit of
Uh-oh.
cayenne in there. So.
You making this? It sounds like you're making this a little special here today.
Yeah, this is. The curry blend helps heal too. Curry is good for us. And you can have the honors of.
All
maybe I
right.
should hydrate a little bit. It looks
All
like
right.
it's a little thick. Yeah.
You're the chef.
That's a little hydration, maybe even a little more.
I've been practicing the eating part.
Okay. I'm glad you're enjoying it. So. And then, you know, the recipe, you know, there's variations on this theme. You know,
Right.
sometimes this is going to be a sweet curry.
Okay.
And I already had a request to come back and do a couple other curries. So, you know,
Excellent.
this is just the start of something that's good.
Let me get it stirred up here. I'm going to call on one of our interns, Ian. She's going to help me taste test. Now, if it's too good, I'm going to just send her back. But for the time being, let's put it in something that's already there. How about that?
Okay.
Do we have a fork or?
She can use one of my knives. Your fingers are good.
Yeah, go ahead. Use your fingers. We ain't too proud on this show. How do you like it?
Delicious.
I'm glad you enjoyed. And the thing is that
The
everything is
spices,
natural. Yes.
the curry, it's all here. Uh-oh, my sinuses are getting cleaned out.
That's okay. A bit of cayenne, and that's good. Blood purifier.
Excellent.
Yes. The lemon and lime is citrus.
I tell you folks, Chef Live knows how to do it. He's been doing a great job showing us all of his different recipes. And you can find out more about him, and you can find out more about our show at cefn.org, cefn.org, and you can get the recipe. You don't have to sit here and watch me eat everything. You can get the recipe. Ian, how's it tasting?
Great.
You get the spices? You like spicy stuff?
Yeah.
You're up for that? Okay. Chef, and real men cook.
Cook, yes.
Real men cook.
Father's Day, that definitely is an event. It raises money for all the charities in the Philadelphia and Jersey area.
All right.
So all the fathers, we get left out. Like Mother's Day, everybody gets worship. The fathers come out and cook and provide their favorite recipes for the Philadelphia community.
Excellent. Don't forget us, CEFN, and come back and see us.